My name is Elena Harper. I'm 34. Last Thanksgiving at 4:47 p.m., I was standing in my parents' dining room in Winnetka, watching my brother Dylan pour himself a third glass of Chateau Margaux while my mother arranged heirloom china, and that's when he cleared his throat and said, "Mom, Dad, and I had a long talk about family legacy last month. I think everyone should know I'm now the majority owner of Harper Supply Solutions." The room went silent. 32 people. I counted them later. Aunts, uncles, cousins, Lauren holding her wine glass frozen halfway to her mouth. "Excuse me?" My voice came out steady. Too steady. Dylan smiled. That same smile he'd used when we were kids, and he'd broken my science fair project and blamed the dog. "The company you started, Elena. Well, technically, we started it together, right? Mom and Dad co-signed that original $50,000 loan. They had skin in the game from day one." "Dylan," my father's voice held a warning, but it was the kind of warning that meant, be careful how you say it, not don't say it at all. "I built that company from nothing," I said. My hands weren't shaking yet. That would come later. 8 years, 70-hour weeks. I turned $50,000 into $15 million in annual revenue. And we're so proud, sweetheart. My mother's voice dripped with that particular brand of condescension she'd perfected over 3 decades. "But Dylan's right. This family invested in you. Your father and I discussed it extensively. The original loan gave us certain rights, and when Dylan presented his vision for expansion, well, it made sense to consolidate ownership with someone who has an MBA from Kellogg, not just," she waved her hand vaguely, "hustle." Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time is it there. Consolidate ownership. I repeated the word slowly. "You transferred my shares without telling me." 51% controlling interest, Dylan said. He was enjoying this. I could see it in the way he leaned back in his chair, one arm draped across Lauren's shoulders. She looked uncomfortable. Good. Someone should be. "Dad's lawyer handled everything last month, all legal, all proper. Mom and Dad bought you out for $300,000. Very generous, considering current market conditions." 300,000. The turkey on the table cost probably $300. The wine Dylan was drinking, 200 a bottle. My company generated 15 million in revenue last year. That's 2% of annual revenue for 100% of my equity. Well, not exactly 100%. My mother adjusted a napkin. You retain a small advisory position. 10%. Dylan felt it was important to keep you involved. How kind of him. "Elena, don't be dramatic." My father finally spoke. "Victor Harper, 62 years old, partner at a law firm downtown, the man who'd taught me to read contracts when I was 12. Your mother and I made a business decision. We fronted the capital. We took the risk. Dylan has the education and the network to take Harper Supply Solutions to the next level. You should be grateful you'll still receive some dividends." Grateful. I looked around the table. Aunt Teresa was studying her plate. Uncle James had his phone out. My cousin Michelle was whispering to her husband. No one was looking at me. No one was saying this is insane or, wait, Elena built that company, or maybe we should hear her side. "When did you sign the paperwork?" I asked Dylan. "October 15th. Why?" "Just wondering." I picked up my wine glass. My hand was steady. Something inside me had gone very cold and very quiet. "And the 300,000. Where did that come from?" Dylan and my mother exchanged a glance. Quick, guilty. "We took a mortgage on the house," my father said. "This house. It seemed appropriate. Family investment in family business." They'd mortgaged their home in Winnetka, worth at least $2 million, to buy me out of the company I'd built, at a 98% discount, and they'd given it all to Dylan. I see. I set down my glass. Well, congratulations, Dylan. I hope you enjoy running Harper Supply Solutions. I really do. That's very mature of you, Elena. My mother's relief was palpable. I knew you'd understand once you thought about it rationally. I didn't respond. I was doing math. October 15th, 5 weeks ago. That meant Dylan had been running my company for 36 days. 36 days to discover what I already knew. Harper Supply Solutions had 15 million in revenue. It also had 12 million in strategic debt, tied to an expansion into Asian markets that wouldn't break even for another 18 months. Debt that was secured against company assets. Debt that I'd taken on deliberately, carefully, as part of a long-term growth strategy. Debt that Dylan now owned. Let me take you back 8 years to the beginning, because that's where this really starts. I was 26, working as a logistics coordinator for a mid-sized shipping company in Chicago, and I had an idea. It was simple, really. Most supply chain management software was built for Fortune 500 companies. Small and medium businesses were stuck with spreadsheets and prayer. I could build something better, something scalable, something affordable. I spent 6 months writing a business plan. I pitched it to 12 investors. All 12 said no. Too risky, too crowded a market, too young, too female, too ambitious. My parents said yes, not enthusiastically. My father read the entire 80-page proposal 3 times, red pen in hand, marking every assumption, every projection, every risk. My mother wanted to know why I couldn't just keep my steady job, get married, give them grandchildren. But they signed. $50,000, co-signed loan from First National Bank of Illinois. I remember the day we went to the bank, November 8th, 2017. It was snowing. My mother wore her Burberry coat. My father brought his reading glasses and spent 40 minutes reviewing the paperwork before signing. "This is a loan, Elena," he'd said. "Not a gift. You understand that?" "I understand." "And if this fails, it won't fail." It didn't fail. I hired 3 people that first year. We worked out of a converted warehouse space in Pilsen, 400 square feet. No heat, windows that rattled when the L train went by. I cold called 200 businesses that first month. I got 17 meetings. I closed 4 contracts. Year 2, revenue hit 600,000. Year 3, 2.1 million. Year 4, we moved to a real office in the West Loop. I hired a CFO, a head of sales, a customer success team. We developed proprietary algorithms. We filed for patents. We won industry awards. Year 6, Dylan called me. "Hey, Lainey." He was the only one who still used my childhood nickname. "Dad mentioned you're looking to expand into international markets." "Maybe." "Why?" "I've got connections in Singapore, Hong Kong. I did a semester abroad at NUS, remember? I could make some introductions." I should have said no. I should have remembered every time Dylan had helped me as a kid and it had ended with me in trouble and him praised for trying. But I was tired. 7-day weeks for 6 years tired. And he was my brother. "That would be great, Dylan. Thanks." He made the introductions. 3 companies in Singapore, 2 in Hong Kong, 1 in Tokyo. Solid leads. I flew out, met with executives, closed 2 contracts within a month. Dylan came to the office a few times, asked questions about operations, about margins, about our legal structure. I thought he was interested. I thought he was proud. I was wrong. The first betrayal came on a Tuesday. March 7th, 2024. I was in a meeting with our head of operations, reviewing Q1 numbers, when my assistant knocked on the glass. "Elena, your mother's online too. She says it's urgent." My mother never called during business hours. I picked up. "Mom, is everything okay?" Elena Marie Harper. Her voice was ice. "I just got a very disturbing call from Patricia Weston." Patricia Weston, one of our largest clients, a logistics director for a pharmaceutical company we'd served for 4 years. "What about Patricia?" She wanted to know if it was true that you were selling the company to a Chinese firm and laying off your American staff. My stomach dropped. We're not selling. We're expanding into Asian markets, but she said you told her the company was being restructured and all existing contracts would be renegotiated at significantly higher rates. I never said that. Mom, I would never. Patricia has known our family for 20 years. She has no reason to lie. What exactly is going on with your company, Elena? I pulled up Patricia's contact. I'd emailed her 2 weeks ago about a routine service upgrade. Nothing about restructuring. Nothing about rate changes. Someone gave her false information. Who would do that? I knew who. I knew exactly who. But I couldn't prove it. Not yet. I'll handle it, Mom. I'll call Patricia right now and straighten this out. See that you do. This family's reputation. I said I'll handle it. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I called Patricia. Got voicemail. Left a message. Called again an hour later. Her assistant said she was unavailable. I sent an email. No response. 3 days later, Patricia's company terminated their contract. 400,000 in annual revenue gone. 2 weeks after that, another client called. Same story, same rumor. I was selling out, laying off staff, jacking up prices. This time I asked where they'd heard it. Your brother mentioned it when we had drinks last week. He seemed concerned about the direction you were taking things. Dylan. I confronted him at Sunday dinner. March 26th. My parents' house, same dining room where I'd spend Thanksgiving 7 months later. Why are you telling my clients I'm selling the company? Dylan looked up from his prime rib. What are you talking about? Patricia Weston, Robert Chen. They both said you told them Harper Supply Solutions was being sold or restructured. I said I was concerned about your expansion strategy. That's not the same thing. You had no right to discuss my business with my clients. Our business, Elena. He set down his fork. Mom and Dad are investors. That makes it a family business. I was expressing legitimate concerns about risk management. You cost me $600,000 in contracts. If your clients are that easily spooked, maybe the problem is your leadership, not my questions. My father cleared his throat. Dylan has a point. If you're making risky expansion decisions without consulting your investors, you're not my investors. You co-signed a loan 8 years ago that I paid back in full after 3 years. Actually, my father said, and his tone made my blood freeze. If you review the loan documents, you'll see there's a clause about ongoing financial interest in any entity created with the loan proceeds. That's not. It's on page 6, paragraph 14. I wrote it myself. I went home. I dug out the loan paperwork. I read page 6, paragraph 14. He was right. The clause was vague, probably unenforceable, but it was there. A sentence about ongoing financial interest proportional to risk undertaken in any business entity created with the loan funds. I'd been 26 when I signed it. I'd been so desperate for the money, I would have signed anything. I called a lawyer the next morning. She read the clause, did some research, came back with bad news. It's not standard, but it's not illegal. The question is whether it gives them equity or just a creditor's interest. That would have to be litigated. Cost you probably $200,000 in legal fees, maybe more if they fight it. $200,000 I didn't have. We were in the middle of the Asian expansion. Every dollar was allocated. How enforceable is it? Depends on the judge. I'd say 60-40 in your favor, maybe 70-30. Maybe wasn't good enough. I tried to make peace. I invited Dylan to the office, showed him our expansion plans, our projections, our risk mitigation strategies. I thought if he understood the business, he'd stop sabotaging it. He smiled and nodded, and asked smart questions. He met my team, he toured the facilities, he took notes. 2 months later, 3 of my best clients received anonymous emails detailing every loan my company had taken, every debt we carried, every risk factor in our expansion. The emails claimed I was over-leveraged and likely to default within 6 months. I traced the emails to a burner account. No proof it was Dylan. But I knew. Revenue dropped 11% in Q2. Our bank started asking questions about our debt ratios. I had to let 2 people go. Not because we couldn't afford them, but because I needed to show financial discipline. Then came the public humiliation. July 18th, 2024. I was having lunch with a potential investor at Gibson's Steakhouse on Rush Street. Her name was Caroline Zhang, managing partner at a venture capital firm. She was considering a $3 million investment in our Asian expansion. We were halfway through our salads when Dylan walked in. "Elena, what a coincidence!" It wasn't a coincidence. Gibson's was his favorite restaurant. He ate there twice a week. He knew I'd be there because I'd mentioned it in a family text thread, trying to be transparent, trying to rebuild trust. "Dylan, hi." I didn't stand. "This is Caroline Zhang. Caroline, my brother Dylan." "Pleasure." He shook her hand. Then he pulled up a chair, just sat down at our table. "So, Caroline, are you thinking about investing in my sister's little venture?" Caroline's smile tightened. "We're in preliminary discussions." "That's wonderful. Elena's always been ambitious. Our parents are so proud." He signaled the waiter. "Can I get a Macallan 18 neat?" "Thanks." "So, Caroline, has Elena shown you the full picture? The debt load, the Asian market risks?" "Dylan." My voice was quiet, controlled. "This is a business meeting." "I know. That's why I want to make sure Caroline has all the information. Family is family, but business is business, right?" He turned back to Caroline. "The thing is, Elena's great at the startup phase, real scrappy. But scaling? That requires different skills, financial discipline, strategic patience. Our father always says Elena has champagne taste on a beer budget." Caroline was looking at me now, reassessing, wondering if Dylan was a concerned brother or if there was truth to what he was saying. "I appreciate your concern," I said, each word carefully placed. "But I think Caroline and I can handle this conversation." Of course. Of course. I just want to help. You know I support you, Lainey." He stood up. "Caroline, lovely to meet you. Do your due diligence, that's all I'm saying." He dropped a 50 on the table. "Lunch is on me." He left. Caroline and I finished our salads. She asked a few more questions. Professional, polite, but the energy had changed. 2 weeks later, her firm passed on the investment. Not the right fit at this time. I sat in my office after I got that email. It was 6:47 p.m. My team had gone home. The cleaning crew was vacuuming in the hallway. I sat there for 33 minutes, not moving, just staring at the Chicago skyline through my window. Something had shifted inside me. Something hard and cold and final. I'd spent 8 years building this company. I'd sacrificed relationships, sleep, health. I'd turned $50,000 into $15 million in revenue. I'd created 43 jobs. I'd won awards. I'd changed lives. And my brother was destroying it because he could. That night, I went home to my apartment in Lakeview. It was small, 800 square feet, because I'd been pouring every extra dollar back into the business. I made tea. I sat on my couch. I thought about my options. I could fight. Hire lawyers, go to war with my family, spend years in litigation. I could quit. Sell everything, take whatever I could get, start over somewhere else. Or I could wait. I chose to wait. Because here's what Dylan didn't know. I'd spent 8 years learning this business from the inside. I knew every client, every contract, every operational detail. I knew where the value was and where the risk was. I knew exactly what the company looked like on paper and what it looked like in reality. And if my parents wanted to give it to Dylan, if they wanted to bet on an MBA over 8 years of experience, fine. Let them learn the difference between owning something and building it. I stopped fighting. I stopped defending myself at family dinners. When Dylan made snide comments about my management style, I smiled and said, You might be right. When my mother suggested I should think about my future and consider stepping back, I said, I'll think about it. They thought I was giving up. They thought I was finally accepting my place. I was planning. In August, I got a call from Marcus Reynolds, my CFO. Elena, your father's lawyer requested copies of all our corporate documents, articles of incorporation, shareholder agreements, everything. Send them. Are you sure? Send them, Marcus. Let's give them exactly what they want. In September, I got a call from Kenji Tanaka, one of our Tokyo partners. Elena-san, a man named Dylan Harper contacted me. He says he's taking over operations. Is this true? Not yet, Kenji, but it might be soon. I see. Long pause. My firm has worked with you for 2 years. You have always been honorable. If there is a change in leadership, we will need to reevaluate our contracts. I understand. 4 other international partners called with the same concern. I gave them all the same answer. I didn't badmouth Dylan. I didn't try to sabotage the transition. I just told them the truth. Leadership might change, and they should make their own decisions. Every single one of them said they'd wait to see how things developed. October 1st, my father invited me to lunch, downtown, at his club, private dining room. Elena, your mother and I have been talking. Okay? We think it's time for a change. Dylan has a real vision for Harper Supply Solutions. He's been working with our lawyers on a restructuring plan. I see. We'd like to buy out your position. You'd retain a small advisory stake, 10%. We're prepared to offer $300,000. I did the math silently. The company was worth conservatively $15 million based on annual revenue. $300,000 was 2%. That seems low. It's fair, given the debt load and the risk factors in your current expansion. The expansion that's generating $2 million in new annual revenue? The expansion that's costing us millions in capital outlay and won't break even for 18 months. He slid a folder across the table. The paperwork is ready. We'd like to finalize this by the middle of the month. I opened the folder. 30 pages of legal documents, transfer of ownership, release of claims, non-compete agreements. I need to read this. Of course. Take a week. I took the documents to 3 different lawyers. They all said the same thing. It was a terrible deal, but it was legal. My parents' co-signer status and that clause in the original loan gave them just enough leverage to force this through if they wanted to fight. Fighting would cost more than $300,000. Fighting would take years. Fighting would destroy the company and the family. If you sign this, my third lawyer said, you walk away with $300,000 and no company. If you fight, you might win, but you'll spend everything you have getting there. What if I let them take it? She looked at me. Then they own your company and your debt. Exactly. I signed the paperwork on October 15th. My parents and Dylan were there, along with their lawyer. Everyone was very professional, very cordial. My mother even hugged me. This is for the best, sweetheart. You'll see. Dylan shook my hand. I'm going to take such good care of what you built, Lainey. I promise. I smiled. I know you will. That night, I went home and opened a bottle of wine. The good stuff, the Bordeaux I'd been saving for when we hit 20 million in revenue. I poured a glass. I toasted my empty apartment. 36 days, I said out loud. Let's see what you do with 36 days. Because here's what the paperwork didn't show. What Dylan and my parents didn't know. Harper Supply Solutions had 15 million in revenue and 12 million in strategic debt. That debt was structured as bridge financing for our Asian expansion. It was due in full on December 31st, 2024. I'd negotiated that date very carefully with our lenders because I knew we'd have the revenue to pay it by then. Our Tokyo contracts alone would generate enough cash flow, but those contracts weren't with Harper Supply Solutions. They were with our international subsidiary, Harper Global Solutions, incorporated separately in Delaware. A subsidiary I'd set up 2 years ago as a risk management strategy. A subsidiary where I was the sole shareholder. The parent company, the company Dylan now owned, had loans secured against anticipated revenue from the subsidiary. Revenue that would only transfer if certain performance benchmarks were met. Benchmarks that required, among other things, approval from the subsidiary's board of directors. A board of one, me. Dylan now owned a company with $15 million in revenue, $12 million in debt due in 67 days, and no way to access the cash flow needed to pay it. I'd built a time bomb and handed him the trigger. I didn't tell anyone. I went to work every day for the next 3 weeks, training Dylan's transition team, answering questions, being helpful. I watched him move into my office, sit in my chair, send emails to my clients introducing himself as the new CEO. I watched him struggle with operations he didn't understand. I watched him make small mistakes that would compound into bigger problems. I watched him slowly realize that owning a company and running a company are very different things. On November 10th, Marcus called me. Elena, Dylan just asked me about the December debt payment. He seemed surprised by the amount. Did you explain the structure? I tried. He doesn't seem to understand how the subsidiary works. He'll figure it out. Elena, Marcus's voice dropped. If he doesn't secure that revenue transfer from Harper Global, the company defaults. We could lose everything. I know. You know? Long silence. Oh my God, you planned this. I planned nothing, Marcus. I set up a subsidiary 2 years ago as a legitimate risk management strategy. That's all. And you just happened to sign over the parent company 6 weeks before the debt comes due. Coincidence. Elena. Marcus, I need you to do something for me. I need you to document everything. Every decision Dylan makes from now until the end of the year. Every email, every client interaction, every operational choice. Can you do that? Another pause. Why? Because when this falls apart, I want everyone to see exactly who was responsible. He did it. Marcus and 4 other key staff members, people who'd been with me since the beginning, started keeping detailed records. Not sabotaging Dylan, not undermining him, just documenting. They watched him alienate clients with his condescending attitude. They watched him ignore operational issues because they seemed beneath his MBA education. They watched him spend $12,000 redecorating the office while deferring critical equipment maintenance. And they watched him, in late November, finally discover the problem. I know because Lauren called me. November 23rd, 9:15 p.m. I was at home, reading. My phone rang. Elena, it's Lauren. I need to talk to you. Lauren and I had never been close. She was Dylan's wife, and she'd always been polite but distant, loyal to him. What's wrong? Dylan's been locked in his office for 3 hours. He won't talk to me. He just keeps looking at spreadsheets and making phone calls. Something's wrong with the company. He's the CEO now. He'll figure it out. Elena, her voice cracked. He took out a $300,000 mortgage on your parents' house to buy you out. If the company fails, I know. You know? How can you? She stopped. Oh God, you knew this would happen. I knew Dylan had no idea how to run a supply chain management company. I knew he was taking this on because Mom and Dad handed it to him, not because he'd earned it. Yes, Lauren, I knew. Your parents could lose their house. My parents made a business decision. They'll live with the consequences. You can't just, she was crying now. Elena, please, he's my husband. This will destroy him. Then maybe he shouldn't have stolen my company. I hung up. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no regret. Just a cold, clear certainty that I'd done exactly what needed to be done. 2 days later was Thanksgiving. The table was set for 32 people. Crystal glasses, cloth napkins, my mother's Bernardo china. The Chateau Margaux Dillon was pouring cost $200 a bottle. There were 3 turkeys, 4 kinds of stuffing, 7 pies. I wore a simple black dress, no jewelry. I sat between Aunt Teresa and Cousin Michelle and made small talk about nothing important. At 4:47 p.m., Dylan stood up. "Everyone, if I could have your attention for a moment." He tapped his wineglass with a knife. The room quieted. I wanted to share some exciting family news. Mom, Dad, and I had a long talk about family legacy last month. I think everyone should know. I'm now the majority owner of Harper's Supply Solutions. I watched the room react. The surprise, the congratulations, the questions. I watched my mother beam with pride. I watched my father nod with satisfaction. I watched Dylan bask in it for exactly 90 seconds. Then I spoke. "That's wonderful, Dylan. Congratulations. How's the December debt payment coming along?" The color drained from his face. "What?" My mother looked confused. "The $12 million in bridge financing that's due December 31st. I'm sure Dylan's mentioned it. It's a significant obligation." "Dylan?" My father's voice sharpened. "What is she talking about?" It's handled. Just part of normal operations." $12 million is normal? Uncle James looked up from his phone. "It's strategic debt for the Asian expansion," Dylan said quickly. "Totally under control." "Is it?" I pulled out my phone, opened my email. "Because I got a message from Kenji Tanaka yesterday. He's our Tokyo partner. Well, your Tokyo partner now. He says Harper Supply Solutions has requested revenue transfers from the subsidiary, but the subsidiary's board hasn't approved them yet. That must be stressful for you." Dylan's jaw clenched. "Elena, this isn't the time." "Oh, I think it's exactly the time. Everyone's here. Everyone should know what they're celebrating." I stood up, walked to the sideboard where my mother had set up a coffee service, picked up my bag, pulled out my tablet. See, the thing is, when I built Harper's Supply Solutions, I was very careful about risk management. So 2 years ago, I set up a subsidiary, Harper Global Solutions, incorporated in Delaware. That subsidiary holds all our international contracts, the profitable ones, the ones generating enough revenue to pay off that $12 million debt Dylan now owns. I walked back to the table, set the tablet down in front of my father. "These are the corporate documents, Harper Global Solutions. See the shareholder registry? 100% owned by Elena Marie Harper. See the operating agreement? Board approval required for any revenue transfers to the parent company. See the board roster? 1 director, me." My father stared at the screen. His face had gone very pale. "You can't do that," Dylan said. His voice was shaking. That's corporate theft. That's legal corporate structure. You can call my lawyer if you want. Her name's Rebecca Choi. She's with Morrison and Forster. I have her number." "Elena," my mother stood up, "this is not funny." "You're right. It's not funny. It's business. The same business you decided to restructure without my consent." I looked at Dylan. "How much due diligence did you do before you took over, Dylan? Did you review all the corporate entities? Did you talk to the international partners? Did you check which contracts were actually owned by the parent company versus the subsidiaries?" Silence. "You didn't, did you? Because you trusted that Mom and Dad had handed you something valuable. You trusted that I'd built something solid, and all you had to do was show up and take credit for it." "Elena, sweetheart," my father found his voice, "we can work this out. Family doesn't have to be. We're not family, Dad. We're business partners who happen to share DNA. You taught me that when you wrote that clause into my loan paperwork, when you used it to force me out of the company I built." I picked up the tablet, looked around the table. 32 faces. Some shocked, some confused, some starting to understand. Here's what happens next. On December 31st, Harper Supply Solutions owes $12 million to 3 different lenders. Dylan can pay it 3 ways. Option 1. He secures revenue transfers from Harper Global Solutions. That requires board approval. My approval. Option 2. He finds $12 million somewhere else. Good luck with that on 6 weeks' notice. Option 3. He defaults. The lenders take control of the company. You lose everything. You're going to bankrupt your own company? Aunt Teresa looked horrified. It's not my company anymore. Remember? I sold it for $300,000, 2% of its value. I looked at my parents. You made a business decision. You chose to believe Dylan's MBA mattered more than my 8 years of experience. You chose to mortgage your house to buy me out. Those were your choices. This is extortion, Dylan said. No, extortion is what you did when you spread rumors to my clients, when you crashed my investor meeting, when you systematically undermined my business for 6 months because you wanted what I'd built. My voice was still calm, flat, empty of emotion. This is consequence. Elena, Lauren was crying. Please, this will destroy them. I looked at her. Sweet Lauren, who'd never done anything wrong except marry the wrong brother. I know, that's the point. My mother made a sound like a wounded animal. How can you do this to us? We're your parents. You did this to yourselves. You had a daughter who built a multi-million-dollar company from scratch, who worked 7-day weeks for 8 years, who never asked for anything except the chance to prove herself. And you gave it all to Dylan because he has the right degree and the right gender, and because you've spent 34 years convinced he's special and I'm not. I picked up my coat. Enjoy your turkey. I have work tomorrow, real work, at Harper Global Solutions. We're opening an office in Seoul next month. Projected revenue $4 million annually. Wait. My father stood up. What do you want? To buy the company back? We'll sell it to you. Same price we paid you. 300,000? I almost laughed. Dad, the company's worth 15 million with the subsidiary. Without it, it's worth negative 12 million. It's not an asset, it's a liability. Then what do you want? I looked at him. This man who'd taught me to read contracts, who'd shown me how to negotiate, who'd raised me to be strong and independent, and then punished me for it. I want you to understand that I didn't need you. I never needed you. I asked for your help 8 years ago because you were my parents, and I thought that meant something, but I paid you back. Every dollar, plus interest. I built that company alone, and you stole it because you could. We didn't steal. You used a legal loophole to force me out and hand everything to Dylan for 2% of its value. Maybe it's not theft in court, but it's theft in every way that matters. I buttoned my coat. Dylan can keep the company. I hope he learned something from watching it collapse. I hope you all do. I walked to the door. 32 people watched me. No one spoke. No one moved. At the threshold, I turned back. One more thing. The loyal staff members who've been documenting Dylan's decisions for the past 6 weeks, they're all leaving December 15th. They're coming to work for Harper Global Solutions. Marcus, Sarah, James, Linda, Tom. They're the ones who actually knew how to run the business. Without them, you don't even have operational competence. Dylan's face went white. You're poaching my staff? Your staff, my friends, people I've worked with for 8 years. People who watched you walk into their office and treat them like servants because you had an MBA and they didn't. They made their own choices, just like you did, just like Mom and Dad did. I opened the door. A cold November air rushed in. Merry Thanksgiving, everyone. I left. I drove home through empty Chicago streets. I parked in my building's garage. I rode the elevator to the 8th floor. I unlocked my apartment door. And then, finally, I sat down on my couch and cried. Not from sadness, not from regret, from relief. 8 years of proving myself. 8 years of being dismissed, undermined, stolen from. 8 years of trying to be good enough for people who'd already decided I never would be. It was over. The next morning, my phone had 63 missed calls. My parents, Dylan, Lauren, aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone had opinions about what I'd done, how I'd destroyed the family, how I could be so cruel. I blocked them all. December 1st, I received a certified letter from my parents' lawyer. It threatened legal action for tortious interference with business operations and breach of fiduciary duty. I forwarded it to Rebecca Choi. She sent back a response so thorough and devastating that I never heard from that lawyer again. December 15th, Marcus and 4 other key employees gave notice at Harper's Supply Solutions. Dylan tried to counteroffer. They all declined. By December 20th, Harper's Supply Solutions had lost its operational core. December 23rd, Dylan called me. I didn't block him. I was curious. Elena, please, I'll give you back the company. Just approve the revenue transfers. The deadline for revenue transfers was December 1st. It's in the subsidiary operating agreement. You missed it. You can make an exception. You're the board. I could, but I won't. Dad's going to lose the house. I know. How can you? His voice broke. I'm your brother. You were my brother. Then you spent 6 months destroying everything I built because Mom and Dad convinced you that you deserved it more than I did. You made your choice. I'm sorry. No, you're not. You're sorry you're losing. That's different. I hung up. December 31st, Harper Supply Solutions defaulted on $12 million in debt. The lenders took control of the company. Dylan lost everything. My parents lost the $300,000 they'd borrowed against their house. January 15th, 2025, the lenders contacted me about buying the company assets. I offered $4 million. They accepted. I merged the assets back into Harper Global Solutions, reconsolidated the operations, and rehired the staff. February 1st, I opened our Seoul office. March 1st, Singapore. April 1st, Hong Kong. By June, Harper Global Solutions was generating $22 million in annual revenue. 6 months after Thanksgiving, I moved into a new apartment. 2 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of Lake Michigan. I adopted a cat. I named her Seoul, after the city where everything turned around. I never spoke to my parents again. Dylan and Lauren divorced in March. He moved to Denver, got a job at a mid-level consulting firm. My mother sends me birthday cards every year. I don't open them. Aunt Teresa called once, 6 months after everything fell apart. You destroyed your family. No, I said. I walked away from people who valued ownership over work, credentials over competence, and Dylan's potential over my proven track record. That's not destruction, that's discernment. I don't regret it. Not even a little. People ask me sometimes if I ever get lonely, if I miss having a family. The answer is complicated. I miss the idea of having parents who were proud of me. I miss the fantasy of a brother who was happy for my success instead of threatened by it. But I don't miss the reality. I don't miss being the daughter who was never quite good enough. I don't miss fighting for respect I'd already earned. Last week I was in Tokyo for a client meeting. After it ended, Kenji took me to dinner at a tiny sushi restaurant in Shibuya. We talked about the Seoul office, about expansion into Vietnam, about his daughter's graduation. At the end of the meal he said, "Elena-san, I want to tell you something. When Dylan called me last year and said he was the new CEO, I was prepared to terminate our contract. Not because of Dylan, because I thought you had chosen to leave. I thought perhaps you did not value what we had built together. I would never do that, Kenji. I know that now, but I want you to understand. The reason I waited, the reason I gave you the chance to explain, is because in 2 years of working together, you never once made me feel small. You never talked down to me because I am not American, because my English is not perfect, because my company is smaller than yours. You treated me like a partner. That is rare." I felt my throat tighten. Thank you. People who build things, they understand value differently than people who inherit things. You built this company. Your brother, your parents, they only saw the money. They did not see the relationships, the trust, the years of work. That is why they lost. And you won. If you're reading this, if you're watching this, and you've ever built something only to have someone try to take credit for it, type, "I built this" in the comments. Or if someone took something from you and you had to walk away to save yourself, type, "I walked away." Both are brave. Both matter. Because here's what I learned. You can't make people value you. You can't force them to see your worth. But you can stop accepting their version of your story. My parents thought Dylan deserved my company because he had an MBA and I only had experience. They were wrong. But I couldn't make them see that. I could only build something they couldn't take. That's what I did. If this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here. If you're celebrating anything this season, I hope it's your own freedom.